So Chris Eubank Sr. has re-emerged, and this time he's not by the side of his son, Chris Jr., he's by the side of his nephew, Harlem Eubank. Harlem's dad recently passed away. That was obviously Chris Eubank Sr.'s brother, and now Sr. says that Harlem is his surrogate son. Now, he's basically coming out with the same or very similar rhetoric to what we heard him coming out with when he was beside his son, Chris Eubank Jr. But we've seen this unfortunate public falling out between father and son there. So now he's attached himself to Harlem Eubank. And there's a lot of people in the comments of these videos saying that Chris Eubank Sr. is a control freak. He loves the limelight. It's really not about helping his son or helping Harlem. It's about him satisfying his narcissistic desire for attention. Well, whatever the case may be, I still find him wildly entertaining. And the way he switches between his adopted British aristocratic accent and his very faded version of Jamaican patois is hilarious. And as you can see here, he loves his badges, right? So he's still got the sheriff's badge on. If you haven't seen that video clip from a couple years ago, when he was actually doing some type of law enforcement work in the United States, I think he was at some type of DUI stop or traffic stop or whatever. And one of the people that got stopped started asking questions about him. And Eubank was just strutting around with his sheriff's badge, you know, dressed like this in a suit. And I think they said something like, I've never seen a policeman wear a suit before. Eubank was just like, yes, yes. He wouldn't even engage with the peasant. Hilarious stuff. He's still wearing the Sheriff Eubank badge. And then he's got this Jamaican badge on his tie there. You see that there? He's now saying that Conor Benn should forget about his son Chris and fight Harlem. In fact, he's saying that his son Chris can no longer make 160 pounds safely. Now, previously, Chris would have had to make 157 to fight Conor Benn. That fight fell out. We all know the story behind that. If it does happen now, it'll be at 160. But Chris Eubank Sr. is saying, no. That fight shouldn't even be happening at 160. It's not safe for my son. Who you need to be fighting is my nephew, Harlem Eubank, who's currently at 140. So he would have to move up. Says he is moving up. You know, they're making a big deal of how drained Harlem is at 140, but now he's going to be so safe at 147. You can see the contradictions creeping in here already. Now, is Harlem Eubank good enough to actually beat Conor Benn? Is he good enough to even be competitive with Conor Benn? Well, I haven't seen as much of Harlem Eubank as I have of Conor Benn or of Chris Eubank Jr. But what I can say from what I have seen is that Harlem Eubank's talent doesn't jump out at me in the same way that Eubank Jr.'s talent or Conor Benn's talent does. Now, look, I'm not saying that Eubank Jr. or Conor Benn are these great world beaters or anything like that. Eubank Jr. has never proved that, and Conor Benn has yet to even step in the ring with someone at world level, at welterweight, to attempt to prove it. But both of them have a certain degree of talent. Eubank Jr. certainly has great athleticism, very fast hands for his weight, always did have. Conor Benn, very explosive. There is talent in both of them. Doesn't necessarily mean it's elite talent, but it's talent. And it's obvious. Whereas with Harlem Eubank, it's not so obvious. For his weight, 140 pounds, I don't see incredible hand speed. He's fairly quick, but it's nothing that jumps out at you. If we have a look at his box rec here, he's 19-0 with 8 KOs. So he's not a prolific puncher. There isn't any great power that jumps out at you. I know he stopped Timo Schwarzkopf yesterday and apparently was the first guy to ever do it, but Timo Schwarzkopf is no great shakes, folks. If we have a look at his record here, he's lost numerous times. He lost to Aram Fanian, that was in 2021, lost to UD over 10, lost to Jack Cattrall in 2019, a UD over 10, lost to a guy called Gift Bolo in South Africa, that was an MD over 6, lost to Chris Van Heerden back in 2018, a UD over 10. Also lost to Anthony Yigit back in 2015, a UD over 10. So plenty of losses there. He's been around the block, 32 years of age. Most of these tough guys get stopped eventually. The fact that Harlem Eubank was the first guy to do it, maybe he's got more power than his record suggests, but I certainly don't think he's a monster puncher, Harlem Eubank, from what I've seen anyway. Maybe when he moves up to 147 pounds, he'll have more pop on his shots. We will see. But I can only go off what I've seen so far. And as of right now, I haven't seen anything that would convince me to pick him against Conor Benn. Let me know what you guys think, but I haven't seen it yet. So for Chris Eubank Sr. to be trying to get his nephew Harlem to fight Conor Benn rather than his son, he's not putting the best Eubank foot forward. I think his son Chris has got a much better chance against Conor Benn than Harlem has. And again, Eubank Sr.'s opposition to his son fighting Conor Benn is based upon this idea that his son is drained at 160. So he's acting like it's his son's health that he's most concerned about in that fight. Personally, I'd be more concerned for Harlem Eubank's health against Conor Benn. How do you guys feel? Would you be more concerned about Harlem Eubank's health against Conor Benn or Chris Eubank Jr.'s health? Chris Eubank Sr. clearly sees himself as the patriarch of the Eubank family, that he should be front and center of all Eubank affairs. And I get that. He created the legacy for the Eubanks from humble beginnings. But is he allowing his own ego and his own desire for attention to supersede what's best for his son and best for his nephew? I tend to suspect he is. If you disagree, you're free to do so in the comment section below. Let me know what you think.